As you heard, our theme for this month and topic for today is Awakening to Our Spiritual Magnificence. That is actually the mission or the purpose of our international movement, Centers for Spiritual Living, to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And the way we do that is by each one of us individually waking up to who and what we are, where we come from, and living from that. We've been talking a lot about that recently in the past week in Salt Lake City, because that's where our international conference for Centers for Spiritual Living took place, where we held our business meeting for our movement. So if you're visiting with us for the first time, bear with me while I just share some of the housekeeping details of our center. Because what we did at the convention is the business of the center, like voting in new leadership, taking care of bylaw resolutions and things like that, very similarly to what we do on a local level when we have our annual membership gathering, which if you are a member at the center, you know is scheduled for... We have 3 members in the house. March 13th at 1 p.m. And so I know that's on all of your calendars and you plan to be here, because indeed we can't do the business without you, the members. And if you're not a member, you can still attend because it's quite interesting to come. Now, in Santa Rosa, we are represented by delegates who go to our convention to represent our best interest in all of this voting. And each center gets to send delegates off to the convention according to the size of the center. We have 7 delegates allotted to us, which is quite wonderful. 6 of them were physically present in Salt Lake City. And one of them, thanks to the glory of the internet, was able to vote remotely. And I wanted to just let you know who these people are who went out and voted on your behalf, because it's quite a commitment to do so. First of all, the minister of each center, that would be me, gets 1 vote for each center, and then along with them a bunch of other people. For example, our Martha McCabe, who is the registrar for the Holmes Institute and the School of Spiritual Leadership and our education program here in Santa Rosa, but who is also very well loved and revered, respected on our international level too. Reverend Tara Steele was a delegate. She is a staff minister who is responsible for Wednesday evening services as well as Sunday evening services. Oh, Helen Graves. The RSCP behind her name means that she's a licensed prayer practitioner, a spiritual coach, if you will. And do you know that she taught a workshop in Salt Lake City about how spiritual practitioners can market their business effectively? Because, it can be difficult to match business and spirituality together. She brought it together for people to a standing room only workshop. Isn't that wonderful? And then we had Reverend Janet Tobin, who is another staff minister of ours. And if you don't know who Reverend Janet Tobin is, go to our website, www.cslsr.org, and look under the groups, because Reverend Janet runs a group called Spirit Rights that helps explore spiritual principles through creative writing. A wonderful group. Then Christopher Fritcher, who is the director of our music ministry, and he was our remote voter. So we were able to listen to the candidates and then text him or email him, so that when it came time to do the voting, we were all on the same page. Kevin Craig, who is a practitioner student and a member, was present also, as was Susan Bennett, another practitioner. We voted in your best interests. How does a person become a delegate? You have to be a member in good standing and have a commitment to follow the whole process, which can take a little bit of time. But other people went to the convention just for their own interest and spiritual growth. Along with us was Sherry Vieira, who you heard just a moment ago is providing this workshop that's coming up on Saturday. It's called The Holy Longing, and it's based on one of the most spectacular books of the Bible, the Song of Solomon, which is an ecstatic love poem about divine love, and she's going to connect that to personal experience. And then we had Jeff Baroni, who's been a practitioner at this center for many, many years. He's a real estate agent too, who helped us find this building so many years ago. And do you know that when we purchased that, he took his agent commission and put it right in the offering? Yeah. And the reason why he went to Salt Lake City is because his longtime friend and colleague, who some of you will know, Reverend Barbara Leger from the Ukraine, was there because she was awarded an honorary doctorate of divinity, which is quite a privilege. So he went to go support her. Also, Carol Shields, who is a member of our center and a past president of our local board of trustees, was there. And do you know that she was re-elected to a position on the International Leadership Council for 4 years? And that is a mighty honor to receive. So there's Carol right over there, and she received that. And then Jeff Basham, also a past member of our board of trustees, one of our youngest serving board members, he was actually on staff in Salt Lake City as the stage manager for the event. And word on the street was that he was spectacular at doing it. And then finally, Reverend Kim Kaiser, who not only directs our educational process here, but he's also part of the leadership for the School of Spiritual Leadership, which is the degree program that we offer, where people seeking spiritual education can get a master's degree in consciousness studies for their own benefit, or if they want to become a minister within this movement. So that was what was going on. It was rather wonderful. Now you're up to date. There were some inspiring events, inspiring speakers, and inspiring panels there, like a panel of young adults speaking, those who had actually grown up in centers for spiritual living. In other words, they didn't know any other faith tradition, as well as those young adults who just recently found it, and they talked about their different perspectives and what does a young person need in order to be able to identify with these spiritual teachings that we have that were born in the 1920s. How to build the bridge between that world and this world was really interesting. We also had a panel of ministers from various centers who, like our center, has been following the annual theme, the global vision, a world that works for everyone. And they talked to us about how it's going for them. What's happening? What are they doing? Oh, there were some stirring moments in these presentations. You know, one of the ministers shared with us that she was experiencing some pushback from her members. Some of them asked her, why are we doing this theme at all? Because it sounds like a liberal political agenda. And their point of view, as they expressed to her, was that this teaching of ours, the science of mind, is all about individuals working on their own spiritual awakening and not getting involved in other people's business. So if another person is having a difficulty, it's up to them to study the same principles that I do. Whoa. So she got to explain to them that a world that works for everyone isn't a political agenda. It's a spiritual agenda based on this idea in the heart of our teaching that we are all one, and that what happens to one of us is happening for all of us. And how do we deal with that? And you know, she said, it's a spiritual agenda that will shake us to our foundation once we stand for it. Because you know how the world works. Once you say you stand for something, you get endless opportunities to see if you're sincere. Right? To see if you're in alignment with the statement you have. Oh, a world that works for everyone. It will make us humble. For example, there was a touching story shared by a minister. She told how she raised her son in the Centers for Spiritual Living, teaching him all the science of mind teachings about unity and compassion and what else? Connectedness and love and oneness and all of those things. And then when he became a young adult, he developed an interest in a military career. And along with that interest, he developed quite a healthy interest in firearms, guns too, which was upsetting to the young adult group that he was part of at the center. And what happened is really a lesson for us to look into deeply, because he began to feel like he was no longer welcome at his own center. And he decided he could no longer attend services or the group or anything at the center where his own mother was the minister, because his experience was one of being rejected, judged, and made wrong. How do we deal with people who have different ideas and values and visions to ours? Because the way we deal with them will tell the world what our teaching is and who we are. See, I empathize with that young man. I empathize with his mother and his community. I know what he's talking about because we've had similar challenges right here in Santa Rosa. Several years ago, many years ago, it was during an election year. A man came to me and told me that he could no longer attend services in Santa Rosa or classes. And I asked him why. And he said, well, I'm displaying a bumper sticker on my car for the political party of my choice, and I don't feel safe to leave my car in the parking lot. Because when I leave it and I get out, there are a number of unfriendly comments directed towards me. And I thought to myself, that's political. That's not spiritual. Now, maybe we've evolved since then, but how we behave in our parking lots tells the world what our philosophy is. How we behave in our classes and groups and how we deal with each other tells the world what our philosophy is teaching us. You see, if I can't have a different idea about religion, about politics, about sexuality, about values, about food, about anything, and be welcome here, well, then we might as well call this place the Center for Ordinary Living. The Center for Regular Old Living like everywhere else. Or the Center for people who think they are spiritually superior. Oh, vision of a world that works. How are we going to do it? You see, the world will hold itself up to see, are you sincere? I don't think we all have to agree with each other. I also don't think we have to teach the world about compassion and connection and unity. We get to prove it by how we treat each other in the parking lot. It's difficult enough to be compassionate and connected and united, let alone trying to convince other people that it's possible. Just let me see if I can do it. And then does that lead to a better world? Can I do it? Another one of our ministers from the Atlanta Spiritual Center. Now, you may remember him. He's spoken here about the great work he's doing in Cambodia. He talked about that work and how he's working with the poorest of the poor children in Cambodia who don't even have water to drink, getting them wells and getting them education so that they can prosper in this world. And he said to us something very beautiful that I will remember. He said, I want to be absolutely clear with you. I am not teaching these people our philosophy. I am living our philosophy by bringing to them that which they need to thrive. There's the question for us. How are you living what you're learning? if you awaken to your spiritual magnificence, what difference is it going to make to your family, to your friends, to your community? Another speaker, Dr. Ken Gordon, who, by the way, was re-elected to another 4-year position to serve in the capacity of the person whose job it is to articulate our vision to the world. Great job. Somebody got up at the conference and said, Dr. Ken, how will you know when you have a world that works for everyone? And he had the opportunity to remind us that it's a vision, not a checklist. And the point of a vision is to be so large and so sweeping that it picks us up from where we are and causes us to reach beyond that. And each one of us has to have our own piece of the puzzle, and it's all got to look different. I believe that's how it is. I believe that we each have this inherent desire to give something good to life from ourselves. I believe that we need to know that our lives are for a greater purpose than paying bills, than surviving, than just getting up the next day. And I believe that we have this desire because there is something in us already that wants to do it all the time. And I call that something God, but you may call it life, or you may call it the creative genius of the universe, or whatever it is you call it. Whatever it is, I believe that it is attempting to express itself in a larger, greater way every single day, as if it's waiting for opportunities to come out. That's what awakening to our spiritual magnificence means to me. The opportunity to prove what I believe by how I show up in the parking lot. That's why I love the global vision, because it's so much bigger than my current life. It's practically impossible, because it calls me to a bigger story for my life, one that I want to attach myself to and reattach myself to every day, especially when I go out into the world and I'm facing the world news, and I'm facing family disappointments and relationship disintegration and work challenges and bodily craziness, and I'm trying to understand what's happening in this world with all its violence and war, or in this me with all my violence and war. I don't ever want to lose sight of this bigger idea that even in the midst of all of this, there remains a creative genius in me and in you, one that we can dream from for our lives. I can't talk for other people. I can't explain why other people make the choices they make. I'm having enough difficulty keeping centered on my own willingness to live a larger life. But I know that I can contribute to the world being a better place, especially as I wake up a little bit more and a little bit more to the spiritual magnificence that is in me, like it is in you. And I want to keep asking myself, as I wake up, what difference is it going to make if I don't do something with what I'm learning? I like to say that the genius that created us had a bigger idea in mind for us than survival. And the reason why I say so, well, look at us. We have this unique quality, as far as I can tell, unique, this ability to operate above our instincts. We can do that. We've got imagination. We've got vision. We can literally sit where we are, in whatever state our lives are, and imagine a greater possibility. We can do that. We can recreate ourselves. We can revolutionize ourselves. We can determine how we will be, what we will choose. We have the power to change, and we know how to love. This is powerful stuff. So I think of it this way: the genius mind that created us filled us with its own life, and in so doing gave us the freedom to dream. And therein lies all my hope for this world and its troubles, and why I attach myself so excitedly to the vision of a world that works for everyone, even though I have no clue how it will ever come to be. Reverend J from our center in Napa, Center for Spiritual Living Napa, he asked his members to answer the question for themselves. What does a world that works for everyone mean to you? Here's what they said.
So every day I pray for a world that works for everyone. And for me, that would be a world where there's an acknowledgement that there's one divine consciousness and that there's acceptance and infinite expressions of that. And there's inclusivity worldwide. And the root of that is really compassion and love. So that would be that every single person accepts that they're completely, unconditionally, divinely loved, and then they can extend that to every other person.
Being supportive of everybody around the world is really supporting ourselves, because we're all connected at that deep level.
Be that everybody knows that they're beautiful, that everybody knows that there's a masterpiece within them that is ready to be revealed.
It's where everyone has a roof over their head, they have their health care taken care of, they don't have to worry about getting food to eat. Everyone's fed and sheltered, and everyone's loved.
So mine is moving beyond fire, beyond burning carbon for our global energy. Clearly we have all the resources we need to operate sustainably in all resource areas, and that makes the world work for everyone.
Is when we have given up our need to react and we respond, that we have given up the need to judge and we can listen.
It's a world where we go back to the simplicity of accepting everyone, really looking past the outside visual that we see and looking into and seeing this divine God presence within everyone. Like when we were children, when all we knew was that somebody was kind and loving and was smiling at us.
For me, would be a place where compassion really ruled the way people behaved with each other.
The world of social equality and justice, and for that means to me access to education, to home, to clothing, to water, to food for everyone, not just a certain group.
And now with this new motto in terms of creating a world for everyone, it is fabulous, so welcomed, and I'm so pleased that I can be a part of this process.
I believe that in a world that works for everyone, love absolutely reigns, and everybody thrives and prospers and knows love at the very center of their being.
Is a world without militarism, where we can utilize those resources to create angels, armies of angels and caregivers to help nation to nation in times of need.
Let's pause before we speak to each other. Just that moment, that thought where you think, does what I say show love?
That is when we recognize the interconnectivity that we all share, where everyone matters.
One in which diversity is celebrated, not feared. It's a place where people can communicate easily between cultures. It's a place where they can share innovations in technology and use that to improve our world and make resources available to even the most poor cultures on the planet.
I know that a world that works for everyone will become a reality when each of us can look around at all the faces in the crowd and see the face of God in each person.
So notice the language of vision has an energy that is different to the language of strategy. We don't know how to work out everything that is stated there. Neither do we need to agree with everything is stated. But oh, when we let ourselves think up, it lifts us up. Not only does it lift us up, that upliftment we feel is contagious. See, it's not either or, it's both and. We can figure out stuff, but if we abandon dreaming, imagine if you started speaking from your visionary voice, your dream for this world. Oh, it opens up the possibilities that are hidden when we sink into strategy only. I invite you to breathe in with me. Let your eyes close as we enter into a moment of prayer so that we may acknowledge this power we've been referring to, the creative genius or God or life or whatever it is, so that we can focus on it in terms of its infiniteness, being present everywhere, being active everywhere, so that we may get a real felt sensation of being immersed in that as points of individual creativity within the mind of the creative genius, so that we can begin to dream from it. We are not abandoning the world in this moment of prayer. It is not either or. We are taking some moment to also ignite the fire of possibility, the deep feeling of connection, and the amazing wonder of creative thinking. We let ourselves imagine our world, its community of beings, its people and its resources in a state of harmony. And according to spiritual law, which says that as we dream, or more accurately, as we speak our word, so does all of creation begin to move into compliance. And so I let myself rest then in this moment, feeling the change that is brewing in me and enjoying the feeling of camaraderie and oneness, and preparing myself to notice the changes that take place around when people dream and vision together. In deepest gratitude for this and for so much more, I say, and so it is.